And following up on that answer, last fall the city eliminated the Recreation Department. Will the Recreation Department be restored if the levy passes?
I don't believe that we will see recreation in exactly the same form that it was in prior to the elimination of the department. That being said, I believe that we can work with many of the groups in the community to make sure that we are providing recreational opportunities to our citizens. An example of this already is that the basketball program for the elementary schools, there was a group of individuals that said, we feel that the basketball is important, but we cannot pay for the gym space, we cannot pay for the janitorial services in the schools. So the city stepped up, partnered with these individuals, and still provided the basketball program. We're looking at partnerships with Greene County, the YMCA, potentially Athletes in Action. And there's probably a lot of groups, other groups out there that we haven't even identified yet, that we can work with to make sure that recreational opportunities are provided. The other things that we're working on right now is we have sent proposals to different entertainment facilities, privately run entertainment facilities, to try to bring them into Xenia to create different opportunities. All different people have different things that they want to see. And by working with different groups, working with different individuals, different people, hopefully we will be able to provide a lot of opportunities and even more opportunities than we provided in the past.
Let's talk about what happens if the levy does not pass. Since the funds would be used for police, fire, and roads, what happens if the levy fails? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
If this effort were to not be successful, we would have to lay off 6 firefighters and 4 police officers, and there would have to be other cutbacks in the street department, in the maintenance. Things that people take for granted would not be completed, and that's not something that we like to discuss, but it's the reality. The individual property owners, individual citizens would see a drastic reduction in the services that they receive from the city.
The next question will be for the chiefs. Can you talk about your ability to currently provide services and how services will be affected if the levy fails? Chief Person, do you want to go first?
In 2003, because of the downturn that occurred in 2001, 2002, the city was forced to reduce police services by 3 officers. As we went into this current recession, we voluntarily took a cut of 2 more officers. We had a captain who retired and an officer who took a position at another department, and we thought it was prudent at the time not to fill those positions. So we're currently down 5 officers. For the most part, we've been able to absorb those cuts internally. That is, we reduced our detectives by 1, we reduced our domestic violence response team by 1, we reduced our ACE drug task force detectives by 1, and then we lost 1 street officer. So we were able to take those cuts and absorb those so that we didn't affect our first responders, the people who come out on emergency calls, the people that come when you call for help. The problem we have is if this levy does not pass, we're going to lose 4 additional officers, and those 4 additional officers will have to come from street patrol. And if those 4 additional officers come from street patrol, which they will have to, it will affect our ability to get to calls in a timely manner. We talk a lot of times about the golden 4 minutes. We need to get to a call in the first 4 minutes, especially if there's a breathing problem. A lot of times we're there in conjunction with EMS. And if we can't get there, a lot of times we can't get there in time to help those people. So we are really concerned that if this doesn't pass, we're going to get cut back to where that becomes an issue. If you look at that and we cut the 4 additional officers, it's going to take us back to 39 officers. The last time this city had 39 officers patrolling its streets was in 1976. In 1976, we had a population of 24,000 versus 27,000 today. We had a land mass of about 8.5 square miles versus just shy of 13 square miles today. So we have a larger population to cover. We have a larger land mass to get around between. And just in general, the requirements of everything we do has increased. In 1976, which happens to be the year I started with the city, an officer could go out and make a DUI arrest, and in 45 minutes they'd have the paperwork completed, be back on the street and available to answer calls. Today it typically takes 2.5 hours to do that same arrest because of federal and state requirements to get those done. So with less people, we're just not going to be able to answer as many calls and get to the calls as quickly as we do now.
Chief Fleming?
I would also piggyback on the same information that Chief Persons talked about. We also took a reduction of 3 individuals in 2003. And with what's being faced upon our voters, we're really at a crossroads. It's going to be up to the electorate to decide whether we continue services as we have currently. I can tell you that with a deficit of additional 6 paramedics, we will have lost over 1/3 of our organization. And with that, our ability to provide service will be at a detriment. We are discussing how we can continue to provide services, and where we are currently today is at a staffing level of 10 paramedics on a daily basis. We will have to lower that, causing Fire Station 2 to be browned out or closed periodically, maybe even permanently. And why are we doing that? We would have to put all of our firefighters at one location to have more versatility to take additional response vehicles from that location. We have a larger facility there where we would be able to house more individuals. And because we have multiple calls that occur, and our EMS calls have been rising very, very rapidly, basically on a continual basis, where we have more than one EMS request at a time. Having fewer firefighters, we will not be able to answer those, and we've been burdening our mutual aid partners to take some of our primary calls. And so I understand where we are today, but I'm very concerned about where we may be in the future, losing 6 additional firefighters.
The next question is for the city manager. Obviously, nobody likes to pay higher taxes. But can you talk about how Xenia ranks in terms of affordability compared to other local governments in Greene and Montgomery County?
The Finance Department put together a list of 24 communities within Greene and Montgomery counties. Xenia was in the top 3 of being the most affordable communities in Greene and Montgomery counties. Even with the additional tax increase, Xenia will still be within the top 10 affordable communities in Greene and Montgomery counties. Some of the things that we've done over the years, as far as water, wastewater, your utility rates, just general affordability of the community, have allowed us to maintain a high level of service, especially fire, police, EMS. We've maintained a high level of service, but the community is very, very inexpensive to live in. All you've got to do is open the Sunday paper and look at what houses cost in Xenia and a comparable house cost in other communities. We have one of the best service levels, one of the best communities at a low cost.